Hi everyone, this is Sarah, the Catholic Homemaker. Today I'm going to be doing a video on my review of Home Education by Charlotte Mason. It was a book written in about 1875 by Charlotte Mason, and she was a British educator that was very much ahead of her time. So first of all, before we get into my review, I want to ask all of you who are new to my channel to please subscribe to my channel, and of course, welcome to my channel, and I hope you come back. And please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit the notification bell for all notifications so you know when I post, which is every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I would also love it if you would share this video and comment below so that more people will be able to see this video. All right, let's jump in. I'll be looking at my notes. Now, my first thing I want to say about Home Education is that it was not an easy read. It was actually a pretty difficult read, and that is just simply because of the language at the time, like over 100 years ago. Just the way we talk is very different now than it was over 100 years ago. And also, she was British, so for the most part, Brits and Americans can understand each other pretty well, but if you add the slight language differences along with over 100 years, it can make it very complicated. But I made it through, and I also plan on reading her other books. She's written 5 other books all about home education, and I will try to link them below if I can find them. All right. So my first point I want to say as an overall theme or point that she makes the importance for education is outdoor time. And I thought I was doing a great job since we moved into our new house because there's a playground outside in our neighborhood, and we spend probably 1 to 2 hours Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends, but definitely consistently Monday through Friday, weather permitting, of course. But even when it's drizzling a little bit, we sometimes still go out and take a walk and go to the playground. So I thought I was doing great. But in her book, she actually addresses the time spent outdoors. And this is in England too. So I'm in South Carolina. We get really great weather here year-round even. But in England, they don't. But she's like, 1 to 2 hours a day simply is not enough time. It needs to be 4 to 6 hours a day. So I guess eventually that is my goal. But I don't know, it can be just a goal that I can gradually work up to, and maybe you all can do so at the time. And she even addresses people's concerns about that, because women might have other children at home and just all their other duties at home. Just think, this was 1875. And she's like, no, you can still do it. And this was like in one of the bustling cities of England, probably London. And she's like, pack a lunch with you and pack all your things together, and you can certainly do it. So I've been part of a homeschool co-op before, and we would meet at parks and we would bring a picnic lunch. And there is one in my area I just learned about, and I'm going to start doing that again. That's another thing, a similar thing that they are going to be doing. So that's just one thing that we can do to work towards that goal. Also, so the things that she talks about being outdoors being so important is that the experiences and the knowledge that the children gain about the world around them. And in this book, she's talking about children up to 9 years old, I believe. And it's preschool age and younger, or even slightly older than that. Children are learning all about the world around them, the birds and the trees, the leaves, just, anything about nature you can possibly think about. And she just really emphasizes the importance of nature. And, she doesn't necessarily say that you need to have lessons outside, but I've heard of some people who already homeschool their children, and if they're having a particularly hard time with this subject, sometimes they'll take their kid or kids outdoors and they will do part of a lesson out there, like maybe do poetry as they're playing. And it just makes it easier for their brains to think. And there are scientific things that have proven this. There's this Japanese word called like forest bathing. I don't remember the actual Japanese word, but it just, when you go out into nature, it kind of like opens up your mind, and you don't have to get so stuck in your thinking like you are indoors. So it's good for everybody, really. And one thing you can do even for really young children is get field guides. I've been looking at a curriculum, a number of different curriculums actually, but one curriculum for Charlotte Mason. It has field guides for young children of preschool age, which is my oldest. So that's something I'm looking for. All right, next is forming good habits. And those include attention, obedience, and being truthful. And the importance of forming good habits, she says, is in order to not necessarily replace, but either replace or prevent bad habits from forming that can go into adulthood, which is very hard to reverse once somebody has had a habit for their entire lives. So one example that stuck out to me in the book was when she talked about a young child leaving the room without shutting the door, and that was a rule. And that may have been something that was very important back in that time for manners or whatever house rules were. But it stuck out to me because it was a very gentle approach. And if you've seen some of my other videos on my channel, I've talked about respectful or gentle parenting. And I think some of her methods kind of go hand in hand with gentle parenting, because some of the ways or her methods of training children is not with reward or with punishment. It's just simply getting them to do something just because they're supposed to do it, and just gently encouraging them to do so. And so the mother was telling the child that they can't go out to play unless they shut the door. And so they wait until the child does it, and then she details out this example, like with each day passing, and she's like, eventually it's become a habit for the child, and the mother doesn't even have to ask the child anymore because it's a well-formed habit. And that just really stuck out to me because it is very similar, as I said, to respectful parenting. And so that's another thing that she believed, is that she believed children are born persons worthy of respect instead of blank slates. And so I guess many people say about their children or little children is that they are blank slates. But I love how she points that out, that children are even people worthy of respect, because a lot of the time as adults we're like, you should just listen to me because I'm an adult, because I'm the boss. But she looks at children as individuals, and that not every child is going to be the same and has the same needs. And the schools out there nowadays are all about testing. They're all about standardized testing, which is the same test for everybody, expecting everybody to perform at the same level. Whereas, every single person has different needs and wants, and some people may not do very well with testing. Others may do just fine or really excel with it. But I think that's one really big problem that schools have gotten into for many years now, is that they just treat every student as the same, and there's something wrong with them if they can't get to the next level. But I think a lot of it is about funding of the schools, unfortunately. So that's really what's driving it, I imagine. But that's the beauty of homeschooling, or even private schools or charter schools sometimes. But I really am embracing homeschooling because you have control over how and when, why, what you're teaching your children. And you don't just have to go by the schools or somebody else's standards. You can individualize things for your own children. So one other thing to say about this is schoolwork. Now, she gives math, for example, talking about these dry examples of working out a math problem. Like, I don't know, 100,013 divided by 73, let's say. Just thought of that in my head. And it was probably more complicated than that. But the point of that example is that she was saying that it would take a student maybe like 30 minutes just to work out that problem, and they may have gotten the wrong answer because it's not relatable at all to them. But she said it's important to give them a living example. So make it interesting for them. Say like, oh, Johnny has 740 apples and Susie has 870 apples, and there are 30 students in the class. Now, how many apples does each student get? And so that example would use division, I'm trying to think, multiplication as well maybe. And the point of that is that it makes it more interesting to the child because they're like, ooh, apples, and these children actually have names. And I certainly remember being in school and having, most of the examples weren't interesting like that, but every once in a while they did pop up, and you were able to visualize it in your head. All right, finally, my last point is about living literature. So most of the things that children learn in school, whether it's like history or I guess you could say math as well, social studies, like pretty much most subjects other than maybe literature, you're going to get a bunch of dry facts and knowledge, but her emphasis is on living literature. So you're not just memorizing a bunch of facts like, okay, the American Revolution started in 1776, and you're just reading a bunch of sentences like that, one after the other. You're actually reading from authors in that time period who wrote about the events that were going on and were narrating it. It may be a combination of the two with facts and living literature, but she really emphasizes the importance of living literature because it brings history, or it brings the subject alive, and it doesn't make you just, drone out or space out. So I can definitely understand the importance of that, especially with my own experiences in school. Finally, I want to point out that Charlotte Mason, or her curriculum, is all about a gentle approach for preschoolers, kindergartners, or even really children of all ages, but it's especially emphasized for young children because it can kind of backfire if you make things a little too academic too early or before the child is ready. You definitely want to, as Charlotte Mason emphasizes, look at the individual child and their own needs. If they're interested in learning a bunch of other things, then yeah, let them, but don't push them too hard. So for a preschooler, the most important thing is learning through play, reading them lots of good books, and being outside, of course, doing lots of play outside. And they're going to learn a lot through nature, especially. And you, as their parent, can point out all the things that you know and maybe learn things yourself. I know that is what I have found as a parent, even before I knew about Charlotte Mason, is that my oldest had so many questions about the world around us, and she still does, but it just develops with each year. and it helps me to learn or relearn things. Like when she was 2, she'd start asking me, what is that? What is that? And she'd point to all things around me, whether it was nature or things at a playground. And I'm like, I don't actually know what that was, or I don't actually know what that is. And I would have to look up things later to try to learn for myself and teach her. So it's always good to learn as an adult as well. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to mention a couple of resources that are great if you're interested in the Charlotte Mason method. The first one is Mater Amabilis, and if you're Catholic, this is really great because it is a Catholic curriculum for Charlotte Mason, and I really love it for my oldest. I'm probably going to use a combination of that along with Mother of Divine Grace for her, and then of course just not push her too hard. The second resource that's really great is the Simply Charlotte Mason YouTube channel, and I've learned a lot from there as well. So I hope this video was very informative for you, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Until next time, bye, and may God bless you.